or a crime in this circumstance, but he is one of the names that people are talking about following that release. Another thing that had happened in this, Casey, is that the Justice Department, they went very broad with these redactions. They redacted all women in photographs with Epstein, and they also redacted things under privileges of the executive branch and for lawyers, attorney-client communications. We don't know exactly why things were redacted yet. That is to come when Blanche or the Justice Department sends a letter to Congress in a few days, about 2 weeks from now, explaining the redactions that they made. But that is something to also see. What are they choosing to redact now, and what haven't they even gotten through? This is still such a work in progress that members of Congress are rightfully saying not all the documents are out there yet.
Yeah, all right, Caitlin, thanks for that reporting. Stand by for us. Elliot Williams, I mean, it seems pretty black and white here that, like, if the Justice Department couldn't get all the material out the door in time, they should have just, applied more lawyers to the problem if they were going to meet the law. I mean, what's going on? Right,
absolutely. Or at least signified that they were not going to be able to meet the deadline prior to the deadline. That happens all the time. You issue a status report or whatever to the court or to Congress or whatever. The big challenge here is that in Congress's law, they did not write in a penalty or a way for someone to sue. And so the question is, if the Justice Department has not met the letter or the spirit of the law, then what happens? Like, does a victim sue Congress? Well, is it just part of that? That doesn't seem to make sense because they don't really have what's called standing to do that. I mean, the obvious thing to happen would be for Congress to call the Justice Department in and just ask them questions. Now, the extreme would be Congress holding the Attorney General or members of the Justice Department in contempt for failing to meet one of them. Now, so get that out of your head, because that's not going to happen. At a minimum, they'll maybe have a hearing or call people up to answer questions. But a lot of this flows from how the law was written. There's just no way to enforce it, really. And you just have to hope that they did a good job.
David Farenthold, you've done a lot of investigative reporting in your time. You're used to seeing these kinds of redactions, right? These are pages and pages of stuff that's blacked out, right? And absolutely the victims have said, we want to be protected. The Justice Department also had to put out a warning at the top that said, hey, if you see something, could you say something? And then we'll redact it, I mean, a lot of this seems very slapdash.
It's an enormous amount of material that they've been asked to go through. And you're right, they should have applied more lawyers.
But didn't they say that they read it all when they first got there?
I mean, how many times have they said they were done reading it, right? There were the binders of material they gave to those folks a few months ago.
Right.
So, yes, they should have done more. But we're dealing with a situation where it's several different kinds of redactions at once. There's victims, there's privacy, that they've now applied things like executive branch, attorney-client privilege. It's really hard to look for all those dimensions even in a smaller release, but this is thousands and hundreds of thousands of pages. That said, this is a job they said they wanted, a job they said they could take on. It's a job they should have been prepared to do. And to tell us 5 minutes before they weren't ready to do it and there were hundreds of thousands of pages left, that's not what they were. That's not complying with either the letter or the spirit of the law.
There's two important words in that statement from the Clinton folks that came up, which were widespread suspicion. And all of this back and forth over did they do it, did they not do it, should they have done a better job in advance, only fuels what is the suspicion before. It's far less of a legal issue than a PR issue that started back with the Attorney General several months ago claiming that she had a big list on her desk
that's
and
exactly
had
right.
binders that she was handing out to people.
Yeah, that's exactly what
it's a blunder.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The selective release and the sloppy redactions and the removing an image, for example, of Donald Trump that was initially posted on the website and then was taken down. They've done nothing here to solve their PR problem, their political problem, and have only further fueled suggestion that they are hiding or not being forthcoming with all the information. So it continues onward in perpetuity, in part because they've handled this in such a sloppy way.
There might have been a perfectly plausible reason to remove the photograph of Donald Trump. Maybe it was privileged, maybe it was protected in some way, maybe it just shouldn't have been released in the first place. But the problem is, because of what the public already thinks of the failures of the Justice Department in how they've handled it thus far, that's why everybody's clamoring, say, oh, there must be a conspiracy to protect Donald Trump.
And you're right that the expectation set by Pam Bondi herself. Who said that there is a list, it's on my desk right now, months ago.
Caitlin Polance, jump in.
I want to raise my hand over here and be like, remember court. Court is out there. And in this context, regarding that photo of Donald Trump, there is the protection of crime victims that is having to take place even over what the Epstein Transparency Act says. And so one of the issues, how that bubbled up, that is a really great example.